Welcome back to another day of math class. We are still studying decimals, but today we are going to learn how to take a decimal and we are going to turn it into a fraction. I want you to remember that decimals and fractions are the same thing. They're just different ways to write a number that is a part of a whole. Let's start off by reviewing what we learned about last week. Last week we learned about place value of decimals. I have our place value chart up here for you guys to see, and I'm sorry for the glare up here in the thousands place, but that's okay. We're not really going to be using that side of the chart today. We remember that our ones place is right here. Just to the right side of the ones place is our decimal point, and we have our tenths and hundredths. Both of those words end in the THS, signifying that we are in the decimals. Remember that it's a nice little pattern, so if you remember which one is which, we start at the ones. When we're going to the left in our normal, the place value we started the year with, we go up to the tens. So in our decimals, we start with the tenths. Then we would move to the hundreds if we went left, but if we go right, we go to the hundredths. If we wanted to go one more place over here, which I do not have labeled on our chart, it would be not the thousands, but the thousandths. So just remember that you can always use these two words over here as a guide for what's happening on this side. So in order to write our decimal as a fraction, we need to learn how to say the numbers, because if we can say them, we can write them, and it's much easier if we can say them. The first thing we have to do is we finally get to say the word "and" when we see a number. When we see the decimal point, this is when I want to say the word "and." So if I were to do this number here, how I would say this is I ignore all my decimals first, and I'm just going to say that number, 7, and then I want to just look at my decimal side. This is just the number 3. It's sitting in the tenths place. So what I would say is 7 and 3 tenths. If this were the number like this, I'm going to start over here. 27 and 3 tenths. If I happen to add on another number over here, what I need to do now is I need to read this entire part of the number here as one number. So let's ignore the beginning of the number and let's just look at this side. I'm not going to say any of these words yet. I'm just going to say this number. What is it? That's the number 34. Don't worry about it being in the decimal side. Just look at it as a full number. It's the number 34. I'm going to look for which decimal is, which digit is furthest to the right. In this case, it's the 4. So I want to say this word right here. I'm going to actually ignore the tenths. I'm going to say 34 hundredths. So this is the number 27 and 34 hundredths. Now I know that's a little confusing because we have tenths and we have hundredths in there, and yet I'm only saying 34 hundredths. The reason why is if I pull out my grid paper here, 3 tenths looks like this. These are my 3 tenths right here. And then I have 4 hundredths as well. Well, if I spent the time to count up every single one of those little dots, I would have 34 hundredths in here, because this would be 10, 20, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. So this is truly 34 hundredths. Now, let's move on and try another number. Okay, we are going to do So we are going to start with just our whole numbers first. That's the number 128. Nothing really special there. What do I say for the decimal point? I say and. 128 and, now here's where we have to learn how to read this. 92, the digit in the right is on the hundredths place, so I say 92 hundredths. So this number is 128 and 92 hundredths. Now it's time to start writing our fractions. Get this cleaned up. You have to dry it off or the markers don't work. Take this out of here. Okay. we're going to work with just some decimals right now. So if I want to, we're going to start really easy here, and we're going to say this. Now, I don't have any numbers over here in the whole number, so I don't want to say the word and, because there's nothing over here to say it before. It wouldn't make a lot of sense to say and 9/10. We don't want to start with and. So since I don't have any numbers over here, I don't need to say the word and. I'm just going to say 9/10. Well, if I say the word to you 9/10, what fraction does that make you think of? What would my denominator be? 9/10. Well, it has to be tenths, right? How many of them do I have? 9. 9/10. If I were to write this fraction for you, you would tell me it was 9/10. This is also 9/10. So all we have to, if we can say it, we just write it down exactly like we said it. Let's try another one. So this time I'm going to do 0 here, and I'm going to put a 5 here. So let's say it first. We don't say and. I don't have any numbers over here. Say this whole number. And I know there's a 0 before it, but if I gave you this number, you would say 5. Where is the 5 located? Where it's in the furthest right position, and it's over the hundredths, so I just say 5/100ths. Now we have to think. We've learned how to say it. 5/100ths. Now we have to write it as a fraction. What would my denominator be? Hundredths. How many of them? 5. It's pretty easy if you can say it. 5/100ths, 5/100ths. Let's try a little bit more challenging one. Okay, this time, all right, we have to say this number first. So first of all, you're just going to say the full number, 27. Look for the digit that's furthest in the right place. We're going to say 27/100ths. Now I have to think about it. What's my denominator? Hundredths. How many? 27. 27/100ths, 27/100ths. Okay, now what happens if we go a little bit bigger? What if we have a whole number in there? Let's try 1 with a whole number. Okay, we have to say it first. So we need to say our whole number, 7. What do we say for the decimal? And. So we have 7 and, say this entire number, 13. Where's the number in the right? 13/100ths. 7 and 13/100ths. Because I have a whole number and a decimal, this is going to be written as a mixed number. The 7 is my whole number, so it has to be 7 and 13/100ths. I'm only writing a fraction for this side. This is a whole number. It is just a normal number. I'm only writing the fraction for this side. 13/100ths would be like this. All right, you can go back and you can watch this video again to learn how to say the numbers if you need it. If you can say it, writing it isn't so hard. And then when you are ready, go to the next video and I will give you some extra practice problems and then talk you through how to get the answer if you need it. All right, see you in the next video.